Hello. So today we're going to talk about the second course. We're going to go into depth on the second course here, which is money mindset. I'm sorry, money matters, money mindset. And so money matters is the course. But today we're going to talk specifically about money mindset and how our mindset of money affects us in the things that we do, how we treat money, how we think about money. We're trying to set that foundation right now. Is what we're really trying to do. And so last week or a month ago, we talked about checking account, savings account, money market accounts. What should we have, and how we should have those, how we should divvy up money between those different accounts. Next month, we're going to talk about getting ready to invest, and so creating a financial plan. We're going to talk about budgeting in the fourth course, and continually again building upon those foundations. So please share this information your with your family, with your friends, anybody that you feel that this would benefit. Our goal really here is to be able to help teach fiscal literacy to everybody that we can, and to be able to make the most impact upon people, and to be able to help them own a home the right way, and then to be a successful homeowner and to be able to retire successfully, and we find that really fiscal literacy hasn't been taught in schools for years. And so the goal is to be able to start teaching fiscal literacy to those who wish to know more about it, and we can go from there. So that's my intent. I'm really sharing it with you, my clients. I'm grateful for you guys. You guys give me the ability to do what I do for a living. And my biggest goal, again, is to be able to make the biggest impact upon people's lives. And so you help me do that. So I really appreciate you guys. Again, share this with anybody that you want. So again, today on money mindset. So first question that I have for you is how does your childhood experience with money affect your financial behavior later in life? So how do you think that interacts? I'll tell you a story, personal story, and I want to share with you guys personal stories. So one, you get to know me a little bit better, but I think that's the best way to be able to learn, and so you can learn from my mistakes. I'm going to share with you a mistake. I shared this with clients that were in the office the other day, and I'll share with you guys. So I can be a spender or a saver. I'm kind of, on the fence there. Certain things I'm going to save, and certain things I'm going to spend. And I think that's really how the majority of us are. Getting ready for a vacation, we can save, we'll save everything. Um, but for me, I become a spender when an automobile is involved, when a car is involved. I love cars, and not only do I love cars, but also it's a trauma from childhood, for me, and so I need to, or I don't need to, but I end up getting a new car, new to me. It may not be a brand new car, but it would be a new to me car where it's got a warranty, and that's still, and I'll get a newer car every, couple of years, 2 to 3 years. And so consistently getting that new car. And there was a joke with some of my friends at one point, which was, it got pretty bad. It was, did your car need tires? So you just went and bought a new car. And then it was, does your car need an oil change? And so anyway, so my father used to always say, don't do as I do, but do as I tell you. And so I will say, it's not a good financial decision to buy a car every couple of years. It's a terrible financial decision. For me, I ended up needing to do that because growing up, we didn't have a whole heck of a lot. Financially, we didn't have a lot as a family. And our cars were older. And I remember, having to push our cars as they would break down through intersections, and there'd be kids around, and I'm a kid. Um, and so, I vowed ultimately through that, and I would be embarrassed with our cars. Even though they were paid off, I didn't really understand much about that at the time. They were paid off, but I'd be embarrassed when they would break down, and they would seem to break down at the most inopportune times, when there would be other kids around, other people around. I remember just down the street here, um, at a major intersection in South Salem, our car broke down, and I remember having to push it through the intersection. Um, and so to me, that was some trauma that was created there. And I just vowed at that point I would get a new car every couple of years. Again, terrible financial decision, but for me, I needed to do it for my own psyche. And so that's really where that came from. Now that came from, I would say, 7 years old, or maybe even a little bit younger. But that's how that decision has really changed, or as it says here, childhood experience with money affect your financial behavior later in life. It's really affected my financial behavior later in life. So as we go through, really, what is your money personality? Are you a spender or a saver? Are you detailed or free-spirited? Are you focused on safety or on status? Are you risk averse or risk tolerant? So as you think about those, which one are you? Now, let's go through. Are you a spender or a saver? So they're all pretty self-explanatory. And again, I think that I have a friend of mine who he is a saver, but when he goes on vacation, he is a spender on vacation. He wants to have unique experiences. So you won't find him at the Motel 6. You're going to find him at a resort, and he saves for that. And I have other friends that save for various things, whether it's to purchase an investment property, or to do other things. A lot of times I find that a lot of savers are saving for either saving for retirement, and again, going back to childhood, where maybe their parents didn't have the best retirement, or their grandparents didn't have the best retirement, so they vowed they would do that. Maybe their family had to declare bankruptcy, and so that made that individual a saver. So there's a lot of childhood experiences that we have that really will affect whether we're a spender or a saver. Now, if we're a spender, we can become a saver, and we can do that by multiple different ways. If we have a tendency to use credit cards a lot, then what we can end up doing is taking our credit cards and putting it in in some water, put that water in a freezer, and make a block of ice. And so at that point, it's got to thaw out for us to be able to use it. I don't know how that works with the chips these days, but you can do something like that. If you're a spender, maybe you put your money in a money market account that takes a couple of days for it to transfer over into your main account. So if you want to hurry up and spend that money, then it takes a couple of days for it to transfer over, and you can really think about what you're wanting to buy that money for, or spend that money for. And again, really helps to be a saver. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. You can look them up on Google and that, and I'm happy to give you other ideas as well. As we start looking at detail or free-spirited, really with that, it's do you operate from within a budget? And so now there's jobs that are really tough to operate within a budget. For instance, mine. Um, I can make a decent amount of money one month, and then I could go 1 or 2 months without making any money. So it's really tough to operate within a budget, but that's something that can be done, and it's just really buckling down and making sure that those really good months that you do put some money aside for the tougher months. And so, or are you free spirited? And free spirited, just you have whatever's in your account, you spend whatever in your account. So, which one are you? And then focused on safety or on status. I'm going to tell you that people really don't care the clothes that you wear. They don't care what you drive. They don't care if you have a Gucci bag or a fake Gucci bag. They really don't. It's you know I think a lot of times we worry about that more than anything, trying to keep up with the Joneses. And so um, when we're trying to keep up with the Joneses at that point, it's very hard for us to be focused on safety. Safety is where we're going to um, save money. And we really want to try to save at least 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in a separate side account. And then the second stage is that we really want to start to pay our debt off at that point, any credit cards and any other debt. I think that it's okay. A good debt would be mortgage debt. And then I think ultimately, it's not necessarily good debt, but I think it's debt that we're going to end up having the majority of our life, and that's auto debt. And any more auto loans or cars are so expensive that most people have to have an auto loan. Interesting fact on auto loans right now is that the average payment on an auto loan is about $750 a month. So you focused on safety or focused on status? Focus on safety, you're going to be saving long term. Focus on status, you're going to be spending today. So now, risk adverse or risk tolerant. I think that in our early stages of life, 20 years old and such, we're going to be more, we can afford to be more risk adverse. As we get older, we become more risk tolerant at that point. And so maybe we invest in high adverse accounts. Excuse me, the allergies are gonna kill me here this year. Anyway, we're gonna invest more in high yield type of accounts. The younger that we are in our 401ks and that, we might take some risks on businesses or something like that. The older that we get, we can't afford to take as many risks, and so we become a little more risk tolerant. So all of our habits in life, all of our habits surrounding money are all created by us by the time that we're 7 years old. And just think about that for a minute, if you don't believe me. And you can start to look at that and start to realize that a lot of the way in which we operate around money, a lot of our beliefs around money, our money mindset, all happens before we're 7 years old. And I'll paint the picture here. So the first thing is that we learn by actually bring this right here. So we learn about money at an early age, again, both good and bad. So we're going to have learned behavior. It's going to be surrounded around emotion and attitudes, and also throughout life. But before 7, we're really watching those things of job losses, arguments around shopping, financial crisis. I remember again, we didn't we really didn't have a whole lot financially growing up, and we worked as a family. Um, we had some newspaper routes that helped us survive as my dad had to medically retire. And so I remember it was tough. It was tough growing up. And I will tell you that I remember this one Christmas. And that Christmas, I remember my dad came to me before Christmas, and he talked about how Santa was having a tough time that year. And he told me that ultimately don't really look for a lot of Christmas presents this year, because Santa needs to, take presents to other people, and that more so, and he was having a really tough time that year. I think about the courage that it took for my dad to come to me and talk to me about that. I was young. I was 7, 5, 6, 7, whatever I was. Um, I was young. I don't remember the exact year, but I remember having that conversation with my dad. I remember he was at the kitchen table. He was working on something. I want to say he was working um, on a toaster that we had. He was trying to fix it. That's, my dad was born in 1929. So that's back when you fixed everything instead of it being broken, you just go buy a new toaster. So I remember he was working on something again. I think it was a toaster, and he told me that. And I just said, okay, I understand now. I had a childlike faith at that time that Santa would come through for me. And so I remember we got the Christmas tree, and that year we actually couldn't afford a Christmas tree. And so we ended up getting a Christmas tree that was one of my dad's, from the 50s, which was a pretty cool Christmas tree. And it was a aluminum foil Christmas tree. And so it was all silver. And then he had these lights that you could put on the Christmas tree, or you could light up the Christmas tree with these lights. You would put decorations on the Christmas tree, Christmas balls and whatever. But these lights would then turn, and it would turn that section of the Christmas tree blue or red or green, whatever the color was. And I remember we put the Christmas tree up, and I remember missing the smell. I mean, we're here in Oregon, and so missing the smell of a Christmas tree, and being a little sad about that. But hey, I'm going to make the best of this. And so I remember Christmas break, coming down the hallway to our living room, and I would come down and I would turn the corner. I would look at the Christmas tree, and my parents believed in Christmas presents went under the Christmas tree Christmas Eve, when Santa came. And so during the time before that, we wouldn't have any Christmas presents under the tree. So, and I remember coming down that hallway, and the Christmas tree, there was nothing under it. And then I remember, finding out, it wasn't Christmas yet. I didn't know what day it was. And so I did that a couple more times, and I did it on Christmas morning. And as I turned that corner, I saw more Christmas presents than I had ever seen, ever. And again, I remember the feeling that I had that time, how I felt like Santa really did come through for me. And it wasn't all about me, but what I found out later was there was some people at church that came to my parents and said, "Hey, we know that you guys are having a tough time, and we want to help you guys have a really nice Christmas." And so that's how we ended up having a Christmas that year. And that's also one reason why, if you don't know, one thing I also do, besides helping on mortgages and helping be successful homeowners and helping with fiscal literacy, is I also am the president of a nonprofit called Believe in Your Community, where we help, during Christmas, we'll help close to 1,000 kids shop for a Christmas present with a police officer. We also help during the school year, before the school year, we'll help around 200 kids shop for school clothes with a police officer. So So those things are near and dear to my heart, and that's because of that experience that I had. Again, not knowing what happened then, believing that there was that magical Christmas. It was a Polar Express Christmas. I heard the bell. Um, but later in life, realizing that there was really some families in our church that helped, and that meant everything to me later in life. So it's those experiences that we had, and they do shape us. They really do shape us. So think of those experiences that you had early on in your life that really changed for the good and for the bad. I'll tell you another experience that I had that was on the bad side. Um, and it was, and this is really one of my early, again, earliest memories of money. Um, I remember going to the store and wanting something at the store, and it was cheap. It was like a buck, a little less than $1, I think, and it wasn't anything extravagant. It was I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't very expensive. And I remember driving home, and I think about my dad a lot. He passed away in '09, and I think about him a lot. And I think about um, the humility that he really had. He was a prideful man, as most people were in 1929. That they grew up during that period of time. He had it tough when he was a kid, and so not that he was prideful in the prideful sense. He had pride about him. Um, the things that he did. He believed that work. You did a really good job. If a job's worth doing, it's worth doing it right. And so I got my work ethic through my dad. But I remember we were driving. I was with my mom and dad, and we were driving down the road, and and I remember hounding my dad on that thing that I wanted, whatever it was, just being a stupid little kid, honestly, um, being kind of a little brat. And again, I was really young, and I can call myself a stupid little kid. And so I remember we got up to the house, and I remember I got my bike out, and I was gonna go someplace, go to a friend's house or something. And I remember hounding my dad kind of one last time. And it was one last time because my dad threw his wallet at me and said, "You can have all the money that's in my wallet right now." And I remember getting his wallet, picking it up, seeing his driver's license, um, and opening up his wallet, and there was no money in there. And again, I think about, you know, the kid that I was, hounding my dad for that. And again, that was a really bad experience. That was something that my dad didn't have the money for it, even if it was $1 right then. He didn't have the money for it. And you got to realize back then, we didn't have as much money in the banks. You kept more of it with you. So my dad really didn't have a lot of money at that point. And so, um, and I don't remember where it was in the month. I don't know, all of that stuff, but ultimately he didn't have the money. And he was trying to tell me that, but he didn't want to let me down. And so I think that sometimes we do things for our families where we don't want to let them down. Um, and maybe they're not the best decisions. So I hope that for you, as obviously I've done, I've done things for my family um, that maybe weren't the best decisions financially. But I just think of my dad at that time, and I think about the humility that he had, um, and I'm sure the frustration at that time. So think about the earliest memories that you had as a kid and how they really shaped you. Also, what were the earliest money conversations that you had in your house? for me, we didn't talk about money in the house ever. Ever. We didn't talk about money. I remember again, going back, wanting to go to the state fair, and a friend of mine was going. His parents were taking him and his sister, and they invited me along. And I remember coming to my mom and dad and saying, "Hey, can I go to the state fair?" And and I remember my mom and dad said, let's check and see where we are, if you don't mind, financially first. And I remember they were at the kitchen table, and my mom had the 10 key out, and which is a calculator, and they were going through the budget and everything, um and you know and and they were able to find $10 for me to be able to go to the fair. So that was cool times. But again, it wasn't part of what I was involved in. It was my mom and dad would be looking at the budget. So my mom and dad did, we talked more about credit than anything, about how to establish a credit. We're going to talk more about that in one of our classes here. I think that's the 5th class. But we talked more about credit than we did talk about actually money, about saving money and things like that. So, the other thing is that, did your peers have more or less than you growing up? And so that's going to change the way in which you feel about money as well. Um, and looking at that. And so, so just keep that in mind. So, whose money messages are influencing you? Was it your previous friends? Was it your parents? Was it your siblings? Whatever it may be, who is really influencing you? And then going back, if you're a spender, can you help to become a saver? And is that important to you? And why would that be important to you? So, as we've examined money here, we've examined, what's your earliest money memory? What were the money conversations like at home? Did your peers have more than you did growing up? And and I know, I mean, my peers did. They all had more than I did growing up. But my mom and dad always made sure there was food on the table. That was the biggest thing. And so we always, I didn't go without in that sense. So they always made sure that the family was taken care of. And I just didn't have the shiniest new things or whatever. I had some shiny new things every once in a while, but not them. So, and then how have these messages influenced your life? And so if you really think about that, so take some time, if you would, and just really ponder where you first learned about money, how you learned about money, and are they good messages or bad messages, and how, if they're bad messages, might you tweak those to become better messages. I'll tell you that for me, again, on the car thing, the older that I've gotten, the more I've been able to go. Instead of 2 years, I've been able to go 3 or 4 years without getting a new car. And so I've been able to go a little bit longer without getting a new car. So that's a good thing. I mean, right now I'm at about 3 years in the car that I have right now. So that's great. That's great. So quick quiz. Why is it important to understand our thoughts and feelings about money? Do me a favor and just jot a note down about that real quick. Why is it important to understand our thoughts and feelings about money? Why do you think that's important? The one reason why, and there's going to be a lot of different reasons why, but one reason why is because it our thoughts and our feelings around money will influence how we treat money. Um, if we believe that money is bad, like I have a friend whose parents taught him that anybody driving a Mercedes was bad. That people that lived in big houses were bad. That and it was all around that. And his parents were teachers growing up and that, and so they are middle class, maybe even a little upper middle class. But if you bought that Mercedes, then you're showing off, and that's bad. Um, and and so for him growing up, then it was um, money's bad. And if you believe that money's bad, then you're going to spend it. You're going to spend it and get rid of it, or you're not going to work to your full potential and try to make a decent amount of money to be able to do that. Um, so if you think that money is bad, so at that point, then overcome that, and really work to overcome that. And there's thoughts that I have, and I'm happy to talk to you one-on-one about those things. So, but why is it important to understand our thoughts and feelings about money? And so think about that. I will say that there's a group here in Salem called the Brothers, and it's two brothers, and they own an incredible car collection, a beautiful car collection. If you want to see the car collection, please let me know. We can get you tickets to be able to go see that. So they have spent millions of dollars on this car collection, and it was their father that started this car collection, and they've spent between the father and them, they spent millions of dollars. They had a person come up, and this was a person that believed that that money was bad, and so they came up and they said, and they were talking to a person, because what they do is they've created this car collection so people can go see the cars, and they charge people to go take a look at the cars, and and so what most people don't know is that the money that they charge, they donate 100% of it. So they don't keep any of the money for themselves. They donate it, and they have a lot of different charities that they donate to. They donate millions of dollars a year through this process. And this lady had said, "Hey, before she knew that they donated the money, she had said, with all the money that this car collection costs to create, curate, and everything, and the building and all of that, where the cars sit, 350 cars, you could have helped out a lot of people." And again, she didn't really understand that they do help out a lot of people through the donations. So now it's something that can live into perpetuity as people can go through and see the car collection. And I'll say that our charity, Believe in Your Community, has benefited from that in a massive way. We've been able to help, and the brothers, through the donations that they've given to Believe in Your Community, which it's all, they want to be anonymous. They don't want people to know who they are, and so it's just they're known as the brothers. They don't want people to know who they are, and the money that they donate to us, 99.97% goes to the kids, and they've helped out hundreds and hundreds of kids, if not thousands of kids by now, because it's been over 4 years that they've donated to us. And so they've made a big impact, and it's just a view. One person has one view of money, and another person has another view of money. So wanted to share that with you. So really, just as we look back, really, what did we learn today? We learned that there's multiple different ways to think about money. We learned that there's spenders and savers, there's risk tolerant, there's non-risk tolerant. We know that people are going to budget, and they're not gonna budget. And there's ways to be able to, um, to, to help. If you, the first question is really, are you a spender or a saver? And there's ways to be able to, again, help move you from a spender to a saver. So for instance, one thing that you can do is you can have your paycheck, have a little more of your paycheck go towards your 401k. You can say, I want an extra $100 or $200 a month to go to my 401k. So you don't even see it. Or you can have $100 or $200 a month go into a separate, maybe savings account, again, so you don't see it. You can do something like that. You can, if you're a spender, you can pay your mortgage down a little bit faster. And so you put that money there. There's, again, just a lot of different ways. And so if you're a spender, please talk to me. I'd be happy to be able to help you. So, and give you some ideas there. But ultimately, I mean, I hope that this time was beneficial. I hope that you had learned a lot. Now, again, as we move forward, one thing that we're going to be learning about is going to be, scooch this on over here. One thing that we're going to learn about our next class, we're going to talk more about investing and creating that financial foundation. And then we're going to start going into budgeting and then getting your first credit card and moving forward from there. So managing debt and that. And again, my intent is to be able to share with you the good and the bad that I've done over my lifetime, so you don't make the same mistakes. Now, I wanted to share this with you here. You can take the First Home IQ score. So the classes that I'm giving to you now are ones that we do for First Home IQ, where we teach fiscal literacy at the school, at the high school level. The goal is really about 14 to 16 years old and up. So we go into high schools and we teach this, and we also teach this to employers. And then I just thought, you know what, it's great to be able to share with my clients. I'm grateful again for you guys, love you guys, and then you can share with your kids. And so I hope that you take this class and you guys watch it as a family and share with your kids, and learn there. At the end, please take the First Home IQ test, and make it a game. And so you can just use the QR code, click on that. It will take you to my website, where there you can take the actual quiz and see who scores the highest. And whoever scores the highest then gets to have a free ice cream from the family. Or whatever works. Maybe they're the ones that get to pick the movie that night to watch. Whatever it is. So please take the First Home IQ score test. It's just a free quiz to be able to help you know a little bit more about where you are in your mindset around money and that. So again, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for attending, and we will be, until next time, which will be next month. Watch for the announcements. We'll have our next class. Again, it will be the first three are kind of foundational. And so next one is on investing. We do start to get a little more in depth on investing, the different ways to be able to invest in that. But then from there, we're going to start getting a little more in depth on budgeting, credit usage, how to increase your credit scores. So a lot of those things. So if you have any questions, please reach out. Again, please share this with anybody you wish to. They are for you. And really appreciate you guys. Until next month, we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.